Endurance Junkie Podcast, episode 31. Junkie, welcome to another episode of the Endurance Junkie Podcast, the show where I will be interviewing some of the fastest, smartest, and most inspiring people active in the endurance world today. And we're going off-road today, as I am joined by Trey Garman, who is the Vice President for Team Unlimited, the Hawaii-based television and events marketing company that owns and produces the Xterra races. Trey, thanks for taking the time to chat here today. Now, for those of us who don't know you, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your sporting background, and how you ended up a VP of the Xterra brand?
Well, aloha, Peter. Good morning for me. Good evening for you in Belgium. I realize it's 5:30 in the evening over there. It's just 6:30 in the morning here in Honolulu, Hawaii. How'd I get to VP of Xterra? Gosh, long road. I'm 40-something now. I came to Hawaii, where Xterra is headquartered, to go to college at the University of Hawaii and really to play baseball. That was my first sporting love, was as a baseball player. And I went through college doing that and studying journalism, which led me to an occupation as a sports information director for one of our local colleges, Hawaii Pacific University. And in that role, I was kind of telling the story of our athletic program at Hawaii Pacific University, where we had 10 teams: volleyball, basketball, baseball, cross country. And I did that for 8 years. And when I was looking for something different, I ended up talking to a public relations agency in downtown Honolulu. And in the interview, they said, "Wow, you're great, but you're not for us. But I want you to call my friend Tom." And Tom was Tom Kiley, the CEO of Team Unlimited at the time. So the very next day I came in to see Tom, and it turned out that fit worked. You know, they were looking for somebody to really drive the story of Xterra to the next step, do weekly newsletters and such. And that's what I was doing at HPU. I was just doing a ton of writing. And so that was back in 2002 when I came on to Team Unlimited to start writing the story of Xterra and do a weekly release. And I've been doing that ever since, although the role in Xterra has certainly evolved over the years. You know, the chief responsibility, I guess you could say, of mine is still to tell the Xterra story.
Yeah, cool. Because Xterra started in 96, if I'm correct. You joined them in 2002. Can you maybe quickly give us a bit of a history lesson on the brand and how it all started in the first place?
Sure. Now, the first Xterra race was in 96, but the story of Xterra predates that. Tom Kiley, our CEO, came from the hotel industry, and at one point was running the Waikiki Oahu Visitors Association. And in that role, his job was to get more exposure for Waikiki and to get tourists out here. And so one of the ways he did it was creating television, and sports television in particular. So he came up with the idea for the Hawaiian International Ocean Challenge, which was a collection of the greatest watermen from all over the world, Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, California. He'd bring in all these lifeguards and do all these skills competitions in Waikiki and put it on TV. It turned out to be great TV. And so he went from doing one show to several, and that lifeguard challenge evolved into other races, including cycling events. He started the Tour of Hawaii cycling event, which led to the Hawaiian Mountain Tour and the first mountain bike stage race. And that's where Xterra got to meet some of its future stars like Ned Overend and Melanie McQuaid and Steve Larson and Sherry Kane. They all came from the Hawaiian Mountain Challenge that Dave Nicholas, who's our managing director, and Dean Crandall, a mountain bike Hall of Famer, came up with, the first kind of mountain bike downhill stage race. And it was kind of at one of those races, so the legend goes, where the mountain bikers would come off the mountain and roll right into the ocean, which was across the street from where the race was happening, and jump in the water. And one of the crew guys says, "Hey, why don't we do one of those, triathlon things, but with mountain bikes?"
Yeah, because there was already a triathlon on some other island in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, there was one you might have heard of, the Ironman in Kona. So they did it, and what happened was it was the right time. There was a collection of opportunities for him. There was a hotel that Tom was friends with that wanted to do something big as a grand opening for its hotel in Maui. And there was a Maui Visitors Bureau that wanted to expose its South Shore to people. And Tom already had the TV contacts, and he had heard this idea of doing the off-road triathlon. So he put all of it together between Dave Nicholas and Janet Clark and Tom Kiley. They invited all the athletes they had gotten to know over the years in cycling and mountain biking and ocean events. Invited all the top pros over to do which at that time was really a made-for-TV event in 1996. And they all came together and they put it on TV, and it turned out they had so much fun. And there was kind of a natural vibe that first year with all kinds of debauchery going on, that there was like this instant classic kind of a feel to it back in 1996. And the TV broadcast, which exposed the sport to a big audience, especially in the U.S., created the demand to do more. Now, what's interesting about that first one in 1996 is it wasn't called Xterra. It was called Aquaterra, which was the first name, which everybody loved. But a kayak company in South Carolina actually had the trademark for Aquaterra. And so they caught wind of it and said, "Hey, that's a great name. If you pay us so much, we'll let you keep on using it." Well, our owner wasn't going for that. So Tom came up with Xterra, X meaning cross, unknown, terra, obviously land, firma. And he had the foresight to register that name in every product category there was, including automobiles. So it was only a month or 2 months later when Nissan North America, after a $1 million market research study, decided to call its new SUV Xterra. And they got Tom on the phone and said, can we have it? And he didn't quite give it to him, but instead he made them a partner and licensed the name Xterra for the SUV category only to Nissan. And in turn, Nissan really drove the growth of the sport back then, because they saw what it was doing and they really liked it. So we went from that one race in 96 to 3 in 97 to 7 in 98 to a full-blown America tour by 99, where it was an event festival and Nissan would come down and they'd have their vehicles everywhere, and they thought it was great and a natural extension of who their brand was. And so they kept pouring more money into Xterra to make it grow. They said, "This is awesome. We want more of them." And that growth kind of came simultaneously with the interest in the growing triathlon world for off-road challenges. And gosh, that's almost 20 years ago. I mean, we're going to be celebrating our 20th Xterra in Maui on November 1, 2015.
Cool. So yeah, it basically all started as just simply event marketing, and then it turned into this a monster is not maybe the correct term, but just a worldwide brand with I guess over 300 races now and more than 60,000 people competing. What has been the biggest challenge for Xterra so far in those 20 years?
The biggest challenge, I think, probably is maintaining the quality of all the events. Anytime you grow from 1 to 300, the quality control is always the hardest, and adapting to levels of income, right? I mean, when Nissan was involved and they were a partner for a decade, and we had more money to spend when they were there, and then there was a leadership change in Nissan, that sponsorship went away, and then Tom and Janet and Dave had to adapt the way the sport was administered, because there wasn't as much money to staff all the things we wanted to do, right? We've got big dreams, and we know what we'd really like to do, and it has to do with an extra $1 million, right? If you have it, then you can you make things look really fancy and do everything you want. Without it, you do the best you can to provide a great experience for the athletes and just help the brand and lifestyle grow.
Like, in growing, did you guys look at what was happening in Kona at the time? With all the money that Nissan was bringing in, did you want to bring something similar, or did you want to create something that was specific for Xterra? Because I had Xterra pros Ben Allen and Jackie Slack on the show a couple of weeks ago, and they told me what they really liked about Xterra was that it felt like there was still an element of fun there, and it didn't feel as serious as ITU racing or Ironman. Is that a vibe that you guys are trying to hold on to? And was it the same at the time when Nissan was still a partner as opposed to now?
Yeah, Xterra has always been fun, and it's kind of been family, and we say that a lot, but I think we can, because I think we back it up. I think the staff here has been around forever. Dave has been the race director, managing director since the first one, and Tom and Janet have been running it since the first one, and Lois Tasaki, our administration head here in the office, has been doing it since the first one. And a lot of our cameraman and TV crew and everybody has been around for a long time. And so the sense of family is always there, because now when we go to a race, an event, a championship event, whether it's in Europe or the US, we have a lot of familiar faces. And we're not so big that anybody in the Xterra tribe, we like to call them, can come up and talk to any one of us and about anything. We care passionately about the athletes and their success, and we want to see them do well. And the fun part of it, I think, has a lot to do with the mountain biking culture. It's hard to take yourself too seriously when you're tumbling head over heels into a bush, and that happens to everybody. In mountain biking, you're going to crash. It's just part of the game. So I think it's humbling, even for the best riders. Take Flora Duffy, for instance. She just won the Xterra World Championship, and she did it with a rip in her kit and her behind, because she went flying over the handlebars into a briar patch, mid race. Had the composure to dust herself off and carry on. But that happens to everybody. So I don't think the elites take themselves too seriously, because it really is where Mother Nature is your toughest competitor. And it's hard to get too cocky in this sport without being humbled real quick.
Yeah, because I watched the finish line at Maui 2 weeks ago, and as well, you see the finish line footage and you see the coverage, and it's not as impressive or as big or as hyped up as it is in Kona, and I think that really also helps to creating that that family vibe, that fun vibe, and I think that's definitely something that's working well for Xterra. Off-road racing really is booming these last couple of years, and personally I have the impression that I see a lot of people who have done like the regular triathlon thing for a while. They're looking for new challenges, and they either go like on the extreme and do something like a Norseman in Norway, or they go off-road and do trail runs, and Xterra Is that a correct assumption? Do you see a lot of people making the switch to Xterra, or do you also have a lot of newcomers that come straight into Xterra?
I think the former. I think we see a lot of road triathletes coming into Xterra. I think it's fair to say that the majority of our tribe are converts from the road to the off road. It's generally a triathlete that that learns how to mountain bike, or always knew how to mountain bike, but they take all their triathlon fitness and knowledge and transfer that off road where they kind of feel like a kid again. I think that's the bulk of our participation base. I do think we have some Xterra specialists where that's what they do. They swim, they mountain bike, trail run. It's a lifestyle that they can be sporting with as a result of the Xterra series. But for the most part, I think they're triathletes that can mountain bikes, because what we have learned is that by and large, mountain bikers as a group don't swim, and for that matter, don't much run. There's some, but if you look through the mountain bike mags and everything else in the culture, those guys, want to go downhill, or climb, and there's not as much transference from mountain biking into triathletes as there are triathletes that can get on a mountain bike and do it that way.
So what do you think makes off-road so attractive these days?
I think you feel like a kid again. I think everybody wants to connect with nature in one way or another. In Xterra, it's an authentic connection. Most of our courses, they're diverse from, oceans to rivers to lakes to mountains to deserts. The terrain challenges vary dramatically depending on what country you're in and what part of the country you're in. So the experience and discovery side of it is never ending, with so many options out there to race. And there's something about being in nature, something primal about trying to chase somebody down through the woods in a dark forest where you can easily get lost, right? I mean, you're all our courses, even the ones in urban cities like Richmond, Virginia, that is right downtown, have forested sections that make you feel like you're in the middle of the forest, and it's just you and Mother Nature, and you can kind of connect with yourself and your environment, and it's a great personal satisfaction to that, and I think it stands a test of time. You'll see a lot of the racers in our tribe have been doing it for a long time. There's kind of this feeling like if you do it once, you're gonna get hooked, and then you're kind of part of the tribe for life. And we take great pride in that, because we think that once you do try it and have a little fun with it, it can be something you can do until you can't ride, run, and swim anymore.
I guess it's something that you can do a lot more often than you can do Ironmans. I guess you can do one or two a year of those, but Xterra, yeah, you can follow.
Yeah, it's Ironman's like they talk about it being the single greatest one day of sporting event challenge. Well, Xterra, depending on who you are, you're going to finish a championship distance race, a mile swim, a 20-mile bike, a 6-mile run, anywhere between 2 hours and 7, right? So it's not as demanding training. Obviously, the guys that are at the peak of the sport and are performing brilliantly are putting in just as much training effort as the guys on the long distance side. But for your average weekend warrior, adult with kids and a real job, they can still get out there and ride and run and train a little bit and enjoy the sport with some degree of success without having to dedicate their whole lives to training and putting in the massive amount of hours that's required to finish a challenge as long and as sustained as Ironman.
Yeah, I guess which also allows for a nice balance between sports and family. Besides the Xterra triathlons, you guys also run the Xterra trail runs. That's relatively new, isn't it?
It's new as a standalone series. We're going into our 7th annual Xterra Trail Running World Championship this year, and back in the late '90s, we started doing weekend festivals for the Xterra races where we'd have a trail run on Saturday, and then the triathlon event on Sunday, and Nissan would get involved, and we'd have a big expo area, and it'd be a 2-day festival. So we've been doing 5K and 10K trail runs since the late '90s that went alongside our triathlons. But the trail run series itself has really taken off over the last several years, where the half marathon distance has been the distance of choice, the one we've celebrated and crowned national and world champions in. And now that series is just booming. We've got 100 trail runs in the U.S., and we break those down into series according to region. And we've got 20 some trail runs international that are associated with the world tour stops that our triathlon has. So yeah, the trail run is really taken off, and it's a great way to get more people involved in the Xterra lifestyle and running off road. It reaches a much broader audience than those that don't need to swim and run with it.
And I have the impression that you purposely keep the distances short to have as many people active as possible.
Sure. I mean, you can do a 5K, which ultimately you've just got to be in good enough shape to walk 3 miles, depending on the terrain, all the way up to we'll do trail marathons as well. But it is a way, and we've kind of had this path for beginners in the sport to get involved, where you can get your feet wet in the sport by doing a 5K. You could do the half distance sprint race as part of a relay team. So somebody could do the swim, somebody can do the bike, somebody could do the run. You could work your way into doing the sprint race all by yourself, and then ultimately get into one of those championship distance events all by yourself. So if you're in an area where we've been, there's a good chance you could work your way up just like that. And we've seen athletes do it and progress their way into being an Xterra championship distance athlete.
I guess that's the ultimate goal, and that's a nice way to get people motivated. Where do you see Xterra in a couple of years from now? Do you guys have any plans going longer or creating new events?
Absolutely. I think, world domination is the ultimate goal. Our series is expanding. There's no shortage of places where we want to be. It's finding the quality organizers and connecting with destinations where we can make it work. At the same time, we fine-tune the world tour that's already in existence. We're in more than 25 countries now. We've got a full-fledged European tour that's 12 stops strong. And the sky's really the limit. I think most of all, Dave Nicholas, our managing director, just wants to find the best organizers and put on the most quality events possible. And the good ones survive, the bad ones fall off, and hopefully we can find a spot where every race is of Maui quality in character and field.
Cool. You guys are working with a couple of partners, I guess, to make everything possible. You mentioned Nissan in the beginning. Fortunately, that's not going on anymore. Who you're partnering with now, and how is that going?
We have a wealth of great partners. Some have been with us forever, including Paul Mitchell. They've been with us since even before the Xterra days, since the Hawaiian Mountain Tour Challenge and all of that. And Paul Mitchell is closely aligned with our values of the healthy, active outdoors lifestyle, of pushing yourself as an individual, of doing good for the environment. For a long time, they've activated their partnership by doing cut-a-thons. And so we have Paul Mitchell cut-a-thons at all our championship events, where stylists will come out and cut hair for a $20 donation, and all of that money will go to the Challenged Athletes Foundation. And, they do this at some of the other events they sponsor, but they've always made a big deal out of Xterra having the most generous athletes as far as giving. It may be just a donation for $20, but they're giving 100 or 200. And every one of those cut-a-thons that we do raises thousands for the Challenged Athletes Foundation. And they've been doing that for 20 years now. And then every event where we take it to, we have a destination sponsor. So for the Xterra World Championship, the Maui Visitors Bureau has been instrumental in the growth of Xterra over the last 19 years. They want to expose the island to visitors from around the world. And what better way to do that than to do an outdoor event that showcases the beach and the land, right? You swim for a mile, so you're showcasing the beach and the ocean, and then you're following mountain bike up ridge lines in Maui that showcase the beauty of the island. So they get, an hour of TV that just shows how pretty their spot can be. So we have destination sponsors from Maui Visitors Bureau to all of our major spots. In the U.S., the USA Championship is hosted by the Utah Sports Commission, which sees the value of bringing in visitors from all over the U.S. As a last stop in our America Tour that has more than 70 events in 38 states in the U.S. We have a qualifier-only America Tour race, a USA Championship race. So in that event, we'll get athletes from literally every corner of the U.S. So more than 40 states come to nationals to see who's the best in the U.S. And that escalates one more when we get to Maui. This year we had racers from more than 40 countries and 40 states. It's the first time that we've had more international racers than we have had Americans in Maui. So we've seen that growth taken off and attributed to the partners we have.
All right, perfect. How can people get in touch with you, Trey?
Well, they could write me, Trey at xterraplanet.com. They could find us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Xterra Planet. And they can find us on Twitter at Xterra Offroad. Or they could come by the offices here at the American Can Company in downtown Honolulu, Hawaii.
All right, that sounds good. Next time I'm in town, I'll definitely pop in. Anything else you want to plug?
Get off-road. For all the listeners out there that may be new to Xterra or thinking about trying one, just try it.
Cool. Now, I'll definitely make sure to put all the links to the websites and the Facebook and Twitter accounts on the show note page. All right. Mahalo, Trey. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, thank you, Peter. It's great to talk to you, and let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, definitely will. Cheers, man.
Cheers.